When we're looking at different businesses and also different arts organisations, it's important to understand this idea of aims. So, what the guiding principles of the business or the organisation are, and how their aims differ. So, really simply, starting with this idea of what are aims and objectives. So, this is what an organisation is trying to achieve. And organisations that are set up are often trying to achieve very different things from each other. Some organisations will be trying to achieve survival. So, this might be the case for a young business, a new business that's starting up, or it might be the case for an arts organisation who's facing challenges in where they're finding their funding and also how they engage with their audience. You might find that the organisation's aims are to further the purpose of this organisation or business. So when any business or any group of people get together to make something happen, they'll come together around a purpose, so around a set of ideas that give them direction as to what they want to achieve, what they want to do. This might be things like increasing profits or increasing reach or a bigger audience. It might be things like improving the quality of what's provided or the standard of what the audience for that organisation can expect. They might have social aims. So they might be, when we were talking about community interest companies, they might have particular social aims to help a certain group of people or help provide a service or help provide things that improve the situation for a particular community of people. Also, an organisation might be looking to achieve the growth of its business or its organisation or its activities. So they might want to become larger, they might want to employ more people or take a bigger part of the share of the market that they're involved in. Or they might want to set up new branches or new venues. When we're thinking about aims and objectives, we need to also think about how an organisation measures whether they're achieving their aims or not. And when we've talked about objectives before, we've talked about them using this acronym SMART. So we're going to use exactly that same framework to look at whether an organisation is achieving their aims and how they can measure it. So we need to start with aims and objectives that are specific, working out what we want to accomplish, the specific reasons and the purposes and the benefits of accomplishing those goals. Also working out who is involved, so really identifying who we're working with, where it will happen, things like that. We want things that are measurable, so we need to know and understand what the outcomes of any activity are, how much of something is happening or how many events are going on. Also, how will we know when the goals are accomplished? So what does a successful project look like, or what does the success of the aims or objectives of an organisation look like? These things need to be agreed, so we need to work out who the stakeholders are. So who are all of the people involved and implicated in the actions of an organisation? And then we need to work out ways that we can check whether there is agreement about these things. The aims and objectives need to be realistic, so they need to be able to be accomplished, and also thinking about how realistic those aims are based on other constraints, so based on resource or time or budget limitations of different kinds. And finally, those aims and objectives need to be timed. So there need to be dates and milestones mapped in against any project or against any type of aim or objective with a review process. so that everyone involved can work out whether they've hit those deadlines and whether they've achieved those targets on time. In any organisation, aims and objectives can, will, and should change over time. This is because organisations are always going to be adapting to market conditions. So, adapting to everything else that's going on. Who is supplying the same goods or services that they are? How much are people willing to pay for different goods or services? And how do things change when disruptive technologies, potentially, or disruptive innovations come on the scene? You need to respond to the world around you. So every organisation should be looking outwards to what's going on around them, and they'll need to adapt and change their aims and objectives in relation to those things. These things can change depending on the size of the organisation. So sometimes a business or an arts organisation might start up with only 1 or 2 people running it. And by the time that they've got 10 or 20 people involved in their business, things are going to be very different than they were. So their aims and objectives need to change alongside that. Also, you'll always be thinking about what resources are available. So this might be what funding you have access to, it might be what assets, what buildings you have, what time, how many volunteers you're working with, how many people with how many skills. And all of these things will probably inform and change your aims and objectives and what your organisation can actually achieve.